In the year 2019 in Memphis, Tennessee, a 36-year-old pastor, Brodes Perry, was cheating on his 42-year-old unsuspecting wife, Tabatha Perry, with a 39-year-old woman, Latoshia Daniels. Soon, Latoshia got pregnant for Pastor Brodes, and she informed him about the pregnancy. Pastor Brodes convinced Latoshia to abort the pregnancy. Latoshia agreed and aborted the pregnancy. Soon after, she terminated their unborn baby. Pastor Brodes broke up with her, and he returned back to his wife, Tabatha. Latoshia was so deeply heartbroken and felt betrayed. So on 4th April 2019, she drove to Pastor Brodes' house and murdered him. She also shot his wife, Tabatha, but fortunately she didn't die. Truly, human being can be so wicked. This is the story of Pastor Brodes Perry, who was murdered by his mistress in front of his wife. Brodes Calvin Perry was born 1983 in Memphis, Tennessee. After his high school education, he enrolled at A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida, where he majored in business administration. After Brodes had completed his university education, he got a calling from God to serve at the church. So Brodes began preaching the Word of God at a St. Mark Baptist church in Little Rock, Arkansas. Later on, he met a young, beautiful lady whom she soon started dating. Their love life was good, and the couple eventually got married. However, after being in a relationship for some time, their once perfect relationship took a worst path, and the two separated. Later, Pastor Brodes, who is now 36 years old, met a 42-year-old woman known as Tabatha Dickerson. The two started dating, and sooner they got married. The couple lived happily in Little Rock, Arkansas. Their marriage was good. Pastor Brodes was really a good husband to his wife, Tabatha. Later on, while serving in the church, Pastor Brodes met a 39-year-old woman known as Latoshia Daniels. Latoshia went to the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Art degree in criminal justice. After getting her degree, she later returned to the same university and did her master's degree in social work. As if that was not enough, Latoshia later enrolled at Walden University, where she graduated with a PhD in social work with specialization in criminal justice. After completing her studies, Latoshia was employed as a licensed certified social worker. She also worked as a qualified clinical social worker. In addition, Latoshia also worked as a certified anger management specialist with over 14 years of experience. She had a mental health facility known as Root Behavioral Health. While working as an anger management specialist, she counseled families and many people she came across. She taught them on the need to control their anger and emotions whenever they are facing unfriendly situations. Latoshia also insisted to them that they must at all times exercise patience with one another. They must be kind to one another at all time. They must de-escalate situations at hand. They must be kind to one another, and above all, they must at all time engage peaceful collaborations in challenging situations. In June 2017, she founded Link of Love, a nonprofit organization. Latoshia was a very successful career woman indeed. So after she and Brodes had met, they became good friends, and they even attended the same church that Pastor Brodes was ministering at. Pastor Brodes even introduced Latoshia to his wife, Tabatha. His wife was so happy to meet her, and soon Latoshia became a family friend of Pastor Brodes and his wife, Tabatha. Pastor Brodes and Latoshia continued with their friendly relationship, but as time went by, Latoshia developed strong feelings for Pastor Brodes, even though she knew that he was married to Tabatha. Pastor Brodes also developed the same feelings for Latoshia, and the two started having a secret affair. As if cheating on his wife was not enough, Pastor Brodes went ahead and promised Latoshia that he will divorce his wife, Tabatha, and marry her. However, later on, Pastor Brodes and his wife, Tabatha, left Little Rock, Arkansas, and they relocated to Memphis, Tennessee, where they settled down at Meridian Park Apartment in Coralville. While in Memphis, Tennessee, Pastor Brodes continued with preaching the Word of God. He served as an executive pastor at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church. He was a third-generational pastor at his church, and he was also in charge of the couple's ministry. He always provided counseling to couples who were in his church whenever they had problems. He always taught them to be sincere in their marriages and to always show respect to their marriage vows. Pastor Brodes always taught couples to love one another. He always warned them about the dangers of being unfaithful to each other. He strongly condemned infidelity among the couples in his church, and he always taught them how to build a happy family. Unfortunately, Pastor Brodes continued with his secret affair with his mistress, Latoshia. Despite the huge distance that was now between them, his wife didn't know of the affairs, neither did she ever suspected them. Soon Pastor Brodes and Latoshia started engaging in sex, and later on, Latoshia found out that she was pregnant for Pastor Brodes. When she informed him about the pregnancy, Pastor Brodes convinced her to do an abortion. After Latoshia had agreed and aborted the pregnancy, Pastor Brodes broke up with her. Latoshia was consumed by feelings of betrayal and heartbreak that she couldn't control her emotions. So, on April 4th, 2019, she drove from Little Rock, Arkansas, to Pastor Brodes' home in Meridian Park apartment in Coralville, Tennessee, to confront him about the pain he had caused her. When she reached at his apartment that evening, she knocked on the door. Pastor Brodes' wife, Tabatha, who had already stayed for 5 years in her marriage with her husband. Pastor Brodes went to open the door, and upon opening the door, she met Latoshia. She welcomed her inside the house since she was a family friend. Unfortunately, Pastor Brodes was not at home at that time, so Latoshia and Tabatha sat down and they entered into a conversation for about 30 minutes. Then a few minutes later, Pastor Brodes arrived at the house and met Latoshia and his wife, Tabatha, having a conversation. So he joined them. During the conversation, Tabatha realized that Latoshia was sounding strange. She was talking with bitterness like someone who was in pain and had been heartbroken. After about 10 minutes, Latoshia realized that it was getting late, so she stood up ready to take her leave. Pastor Brodes and his wife also stood up, and they started walking her out of their house. But as soon as Latoshia reached at the door, she turned around and pulled out a handgun from her coat. She pointed the gun at Pastor Brodes and told him that "you broke my heart." Latoshia immediately began firing at Pastor Brodes while screaming that he broke her heart. She shot him several times, and Pastor Brodes fell down on the floor. When Tabatha saw her husband being shot and was on the ground, it was around 10:20 p.m., so she reached at the door and started banging on the door. She screamed for help from their neighbors. The neighbors heard the gunshots and the screaming that were coming from Pastor Brodes' house, and so they called 911. Meanwhile, Tabatha then turned back around and knelt down to check on her husband, Pastor Brodes. Latoshia then told Tabatha to get out of her way. She pointed a gun at her and shot her on the left shoulder. Latoshia was still at Pastor Brodes' house. She reached inside her pocket to remove ammunition so that she can reload her gun. But right on time, Collierville police arrived at the house. They ordered her to put down her gun. Unfortunately, she refused to put down her weapon, so the police used a less lethal shotgun to neutralize her. So they shot her and she fell on the floor, thereby dropping her gun. After they had disarmed her, they quickly called the emergency services. In no time, the medics arrived and rushed Pastor Brodes, who was in a critical condition, his wife, Tabatha, who was wounded, and Latoshia, whom the police had neutralized, to Baptist Memorial Hospital in Collierville for treatment. The doctors fought very hard to save Pastor Brodes' life, but unfortunately, the following day he died while receiving treatment. His wife Tabatha was treated, and she was in a stable condition. Latoshia was also treated, and she was discharged. After being discharged, the police came to arrest her and take her to the custody. Unfortunately, she attempted to escape from the hospital. When the police were handcuffing her, she jerked away from them and shoved one of them. Latoshia then started running down the hall towards the exit of the hospital room. The officers also ran after her, and two of them caught up with her. She then started fighting the officers. She grabbed one of the police officer's shirt and swung with it. The other officer immediately descended on her and then pinned her down on her stomach and handcuffed her. The police arrested Latoshia and charged her with first-degree murder of Pastor Brodes, attempted murder of Pastor Brodes' wife, Tabatha, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, resisting an arrest, and assaulting a police officer. She was taken into the police custody and got detained without a bond as she waited for her trial to begin. On April 23, 2019, Latoshia appeared before the Shelby County Courthouse for her first hearing. She then went on trial in the year 2021. She pleaded not guilty to the charges which had been filed against her. Unfortunately, Latoshia and her lawyer, attorney Leslie Ballin, had a disagreement about how the case should do. Therefore, her lawyer withdrew from the case. Latoshia had no money to hire another lawyer who can represent her, so the judge ordered a court-appointed lawyer by the name of Junie Gangley to represent her in the case. Until now, Latoshia has not been sentenced. We hope that Pastor Brodes will get the justice that he deserves, and may his soul rest in peace.